Hello and welcome back, Lincoln family. Today we start a new series called the Sit Down. We have a sit down, just general conversation with different people in school, maybe the community, and invite our assistant principals in to kind of help lead that conversation, be a part of the conversation. And today we start our series out with Nikki Schaff, the new assistant principal of Lincoln Elementary, and just kind of ask her some questions about where she came from and what the direction for school is going to be this year. And hope you enjoy the conversation, and we'll do more of these throughout the school year. Today we're talking with Nikki Schaff, right?
Yep.
New assistant principal to Lincoln Elementary. So, Nikki.
Yeah.
Tell us about what is, obviously you just started at Lincoln, first year, not your first year in teaching though, right?
No, nope.
So how many years have you been teaching overall?
Oh gosh. So I was an instructional aide for 3 years while I went to college. Then I became a Title I reading specialist for another year. And then I was hired as a 4th grade teacher in Bismarck, and I taught at Solheim for a year. Then I was moved to Liberty, where I was there for 10 years, all teaching 4th grade. Then I became the instructional coach at Pioneer, where I was for the last 3 years.
Okay, so when you were at Liberty, were you were just teaching like regular 4th grade like classes?
Okay. Regular 4th grade.
And so for the people listening and for myself, what really is like the job of an instructional coach? Like, I know we hear that a lot, but essentially no one really knows what they do.
Yeah, people, when they asked me, I just told them I was a teacher because I didn't want to have to go through the whole spiel of what it is. But basically, an instructional coach is there to support the teachers and the students also, but the teachers with their instruction. I observed teachers, I modeled different lessons. I was there to help them with anything that they needed. I think we would use our data to support a lot of things, and I would help teachers from there.
Okay, so while I'm kind of taking some notes on this stuff, run us through like the early years for you, not necessarily like when you were a baby, but like what kind of interests you in teaching in general? Was it always something that you wanted to do from like an early age? Maybe like parents or whatever kind of influenced that. I know for me it's a little bit different, and I'll kind of like throw that in here in a little bit as to how I got into teaching, but kind of more so without giving the standard I want to see kids succeed answer. Like, what really is, the bottom line of like how you got started in teaching?
Yeah. I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I don't have any educators in my family, which I don't think is always typical. I feel like people grow up in a family like that and they continue. But I remember when I was maybe 7 or 8, I just loved school so much. I would take my stuffed animals and like pretend school all day, and I would grade papers and do all the things that I thought teachers actually did, which in reality is not true at all. But then throughout my schooling years, I had a lot of really great teachers, but I had a couple that weren't so great and made an impact on me in maybe not the most positive way. And so I realized how important that position is and how you can really influence a lot of people and a lot of kids. And I wanted to do it in a positive way. And so I realized that that was the profession that I wanted to go into.
So funny you say that, because that's kind of like where my drive to teach came from. Originally it was, I think, primarily like I, as a high school football player, I was helping out some of the 7th grade kids, and I was enjoying like kind of the coaching aspect of it. So I really got into teaching because of coaching, because where I grew up, in order to coach at a school, you had to also be a teacher at that school. It wasn't one of those things where you can like just have a coaching position. and then do something else. Like you strictly had to be a teacher at that school. So kind of nice because you get a teacher contract guarantee if you get hired as a coach.
Oh.
They basically find, if you don't have, everyone has a specialty or like an area that they teach, right? But like if you didn't have a specific thing, then they would like not make something up for you, but put you in a place that would like fit for you. I know some coaches would go into like health classes because typically you would take like health and PE in college as part of your degree because it's kind of goes hand in hand with coaching. Or like technology classes was another one that one of my coaches did. So like he only taught technology classes, and then he went on to work for the IT department at the school, and now he like is one of the main IT guys there. But going back to what you said about a few like bad apple teachers, I think for me that was like kind of a big draw. Was I had some teachers that literally, personality wise, they were funny, like charismatic, whatever, but they literally sat in their chair, feet up, reading off a PowerPoint.
I had a teacher that actually painted her nails in class.
And would expect you to like read the book or listen to their PowerPoint and then be able to take the test and do well. And it was like, this is not, it's not conducive to how I learn. It's not going to help. Right. So I spent a lot of time like sleeping through high school. I didn't take it serious at all. But I think not. Did
you get in trouble?
Not the teacher's fault. It was, my fault for not putting in the effort. But I saw that. I saw those teachers and I was like, I can't, my personality is I can't complain about something if I don't have, if I'm not willing to do something to change it. Right. If you, I'm an advocate. If you hate cops and you think they're terrible, become a cop and be the good cop that you wish there was out there. Stop complaining about them all the time.
Yeah.
Did I get in trouble for sleeping? No. Funny enough. No, funny story. A couple of times, you hear about the teachers that like drop a book or whatever to scare you. Like that obviously happened. There was one time where a teacher just let me sleep into the next class. And I woke up like the second bell, like when the next class was starting, and people were in the room already. And I woke up and I was like, "Oh, I gotta go. I'm not in the right room." So I like woke up and had to like run out of there. And I think that was the time my leg like fell asleep. And when I got up, like my leg didn't work. So I face planted on the ground as I'm like trying to get out of the class. That was funny. And there was another time where the teacher like had the class stack chairs around me and basically caged me in. Oh. So when I woke up, I was like in a cage. I'm like, where am I at? What is going on?
Did that make you not want to sleep anymore?
No, not at all. But it like freaked me out. Like I didn't know what was going on. And then the principal, like he was pretty chill about it too. Like I remember he walked by the classroom one day and I was snoring so loud he heard me in the hallway. And he like pops in and I wake up and he looks at me and he's like, "Trip, am I interrupting your nap?" And I was like, kind of. Go back to it. And then he just left. Like I wasn't bothering anybody. Like I wasn't disrupting class. I wasn't causing trouble. I mean, I wasn't learning anything either. But that was honestly in that time and age, it was more my fault than it was anybody else's. Right? Like,
right.
I think, especially in high school, you're personally responsible for your own education.
Yeah.
Like the teachers aren't forcing you to learn. You have to be willing to learn. And if you're not, the teachers, I think personally, teachers take whether or not the kid is doing the work way too personal. Like if I have this crazy cool math project I want to do for my third graders and I've like planned it out for a week and whatever, and we go to do it and there's like several of them just not participating, not doing it. It's really easy to take it personal and be angry about it, but at the same time, it's their learning. So something's not working for them. Either it's not interesting, it's not like you think it's fun, maybe they don't, or the topic maybe isn't right for them, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But that's a topic for a different day, right? Like, and maybe we'll cover some of that later. But so you grew up. Did you go to college strictly thinking I'm going to teach? Like that's what I'm going to college for, or like early childhood ed?
No, not really. The little kids scared me.
Which
I actually have my middle school endorsement.
Okay, so funny enough, I think most people that I knew, like early ed, was like terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially in the health and PE department, like teaching PE, like everybody was like, "I'm teaching high school PE. I'm teaching high school PE." And nowadays, I don't want to teach high school PE. Like,
yeah, I wouldn't want to do that either.
the kids are lazy or they're athletic and they just don't want to participate.
Yeah, that's not for me.
So I think, I don't know, and maybe it's different around here. PE teachers get a bad rap of just throw the ball out and let them play.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it.
Which I think there are teachers that do that, but like all the PE teachers that I've known, and I was on the state PE board in the Shape, North Dakota Shape. I was on that board of educators for a little while, and like all of those people were very clever at coming up with stuff. However, most of them were like middle school level or younger. So I think it's easier at the middle school and younger levels to like educate and try and like teach PE, whereas in high school, you're not really teaching skills anymore. It's mostly like the game aspects and then strategy and then how to be physically active on a regular basis, like your lifelong activities and stuff.
Right.
Those kinds of skills, as opposed to like teaching how to throw a ball.
Yeah.
Which high school kids still don't know how to throw a ball and blow them up. Okay, so you went in middle school. So when you came out of college, did you go straight to a middle school or did you like do something else beforehand?
No, I worked at an elementary school while I was going to college. And so throughout that experience, I learned that is where I wanted to be.
So did you work as an aide at the elementary school?
Okay. I was a large classroom size aide in all of second grade.
Okay.
So I did a lot of things. I did reading groups. I just bounced around from all 4 rooms, which is funny because I actually went to elementary school at the school that I was an aide.
Was there still teachers there that you had previously had?
That's fun. It was fun.
But I think that can be a good experience too, unless it's one of those teachers where you're like, I really did not like you.
Yeah, no, I loved them all. They were really awesome.
So at this time, were you like married, dating, had kids already? Like, what was kind of the situation?
I had my daughter. Yep. So that was a little bit difficult to go to college and to work full time, but we made it work.
And I think we have several people here that are like aides and have kids, like even at the school as well. And then they're like either taking college classes or, they have a busy life outside of here as well. So
it's hard. I went to Dickinson State University, but through BSc. So all my classes were at night on campus. So I was still able to have a job during the day.
Nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
So that was your middle school credentials you were getting during that time? And
elementary.
Oh, and elementary.
Yeah, they were kind of combined.
So you just took, essentially just took the practice for elementary after you got done with it.
Yeah.
Was there classes that you had? I mean, this may not be as, interesting to some people. It's interesting to me. Was there, could you essentially take the middle school, classes? What other classes did you have to take for elementary? Like a buddy of mine, I know, we were in college together and he had the same degree I had for health and PE, like K through 12, but they wanted him to teach. I think he had what's it called? Like a minor in math, and they wanted him to teach math at the middle school that he worked at. But in order to teach math at the middle school, he had to have Arkansas history too.
Oh, interesting.
So he just had to take that one class, and then because that was a prereq for the middle school teaching portion, and then he had to take the praxis obviously for the middle school level. Super smart dude though, wasn't a problem for him, but that was the only thing extra he had to take for that credential. Was there something middle school to elementary
we had to take elementary music, elementary PE, and then additional child psychology courses for younger kids.
Elementary music and PE, that's interesting.
They were very interesting. None of us knew, we all knew that's not something that we wanted to pursue, but you still had to take the class.
I wonder why that's a thing. I guess because in some very small niche schools, maybe they don't have
in rural communities, I think.
A music teacher or PE teacher.
Yeah.
But I mean, realistically, in those rural communities, your PE, it's literally, I hate to say it, but throw the balls out and let them play. Right. None of those teachers are realistically taking those maybe music I can see, or if they're pretty athletic, maybe somewhat in PE, but like overall, I can't imagine they're taking it super serious in the form of like true curriculum for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I learned a lot more being an aide than I probably did in my college classes.
Right. Especially like classroom management.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that as an aide you can really just see from an outside perspective what works and what doesn't.
Especially when you're in multiple rooms all the
right.
time.
Yep. And I think that's for me going from teaching for over a decade and doing health and PE, mostly PE, and age levels anywhere from like 18 to 19-year-olds all the way down to essentially like 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't do too much lower than that. Not because I wouldn't, because I didn't have opportunity, but like I think that was something for me, and I lost track. I love my brain; it's so good. Oh, but like having like a different perspective, seeing from the aide's point of view, and almost like at times, almost letting the teachers kind of drown in their own management style, because it's like it's not my class, it's not my place to tell them what I think they should do. Because maybe we'll be successful, maybe we won't. I don't know, but I don't feel like it's not necessarily my job, but like I don't want to step on their toes.
Right.
Some people
but you
can be
still
very,
learn from it either way.
Yeah, some people can be very like picky about those things. Anyway, so you went from college, you were an aide for a while, and then you taught. What kind of led to the instructional coach thing?
So after teaching for, gosh, was it maybe 12 years? I was close with my instructional coach at Liberty, and we did a lot of things together. And I saw her job and all the things that she got to do. And I felt like that's what I wanted to do. I thought about it for a couple of years because I loved being in the classroom, and I felt like I was going to really miss the kids. But then after realizing instructional coaches are still so involved with kids that you can impact on a bigger level. Instead of just your 24 kids, you can impact a whole school.
Right. So I don't want to hang up too much on the instructional coach thing, but I know that's like something you did for a long time and like have a lot of experience with, and then we'll kind of like wrap into the assistant principal section and then kind of like wrap it up there. I don't want to take up too much time. So instructional coach, like I don't remember growing up there really being instructional coaches. Maybe there was, and I just didn't know about them. But like, where do you think that kind of started? Like, how do you think that kind of started?
I think it started. There are some districts, maybe not in North Dakota, that just have like a literacy coach. So it might be a coach just K through 2 to help with reading. I think it was probably something put in place based on test scores that probably didn't go so well. And now it's actually in part of, North Dakota Century Code or whatever it is, that per every number of students, there needs to be an instructional coach. But fun fact, Bismarck totally exceeds that, which is great.
Oh, as far as like instructional coaches overall,
we have
I think
way
pretty much
more
every school
than what it
has
says
one, right?
we need, which is great.
Whereas, like some districts, they would have like one instructional coach for like multiple schools.
Yes.
We essentially have one for every school, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So as an instructional coach, like, is it more? I don't know how to phrase this. So, like, did you? So when you're a teacher, right, you can go and find your curriculum online, and you can say, okay, I'm going to use these K through whatever standards for my grade level. This is what they like should know and be able to do by the end of like 2nd grade, 3rd grade, whatever. Like, where is that for instructional coaches, or is there really anything like that, or is it more like a pool of like information that instructional coaches share, kind of collaboratively, and it's just, hey, I found some new information for this. Hey, I found a new book, or kind of how does that work?
Yeah, it's basically like what you said. It's just a little bit harder because instead of just knowing 4th grade, I now need to know K through 5th grade and all the different curriculums and the different standards. Not necessarily having them memorized and being able to say what they were, but just being able to know them well enough to be able to help the teachers. Coaches do meet once a week, similar to what teachers in a grade level do. And we do a lot of things like that. We talk about new curriculum, we talk about data, interventions, ways that we can help teachers help kids.
So is it more so gosh, I don't know how to like phrase things without, I don't know, potentially offending someone.
You don't offend me.
Well, not necessarily you two, but like teacher wise, it's more like, hey, part of my job is to look at your curriculum and kind of make sure that you're following that curriculum and that you're like within the boundary of where you should be. Like, is that
kind of the one thing with coaches is we're not evaluative at all. So if I went into a classroom and didn't feel like things were going well, I could not and would not run to my principal and tell them.
right?
That was just a relationship that I had with that person. And then I would be like, hey, I noticed that maybe we need help with this, or what do you need? And then I would spend more time in that room.
I mean, from a good standpoint, it's like an extra set of eyes. Because as a teacher, you do those self assessments after you get done with your lesson, and you're like, did it actually go the way that I thought it should? And if it didn't, like, what can I do? I think every good teacher kind of did that. Even in the past, right? They would take a lesson, went really well. These are the places that maybe I need to modify it, or didn't go well, and maybe that was like the group of kids they had that year. Like, these guys can't handle it. Like, we're gonna have to do something different for them. And and I think good teachers modify that as they go. Where I think, from what I'm hearing, like instructional coaches, kind of like a big brother, where it's like, hey, I'm watching. Not necessarily you're sitting in every class, but like I'm trying to be here to like be like a sounding board for what's going on, so that you have a resource.
Yes.
Like, if you feel it didn't go well, then I'm here to like kind of, yep, I validate what you're saying. I don't think it went as well as you thought it did, or maybe you wanted it to. Like, here's kind of like what I saw.
And teachers have a professional goal, and coaches know that goal. So when we go in, we're really watching for that and giving honest feedback that the teachers want.
But to be fair, how many teachers do you think, like, when they set those professional goals, are realistically setting a quote-unquote professional goal, or they're just setting a goal so they can be done with it, so their principal will leave them alone because they set a goal?
I think we've gotten a lot better about that. We have an instructional framework now, and so teachers usually pick one of those elements that's more of a growth goal for them. And I think we've been better at pushing them a little bit to make a goal that's actually a good goal for them.
I think, to be fair, I think in every school you're going to have those people that are like, this is dumb, I don't want it, or, I never asked for this, leave me alone, I know what I'm doing, sort of situation. And it's like, if you were great at it, then this position would have never come about. And if you are great at it, then it doesn't affect you at all. Like, just ignore what's going on, because at the end of the day, nothing's going to affect you anyway. So, transitioning to assistant principal.
Yeah.
First year as an assistant principal, was it kind of always on the, like, part of the plan?
So I went to graduate school, and I have my master's in educational leadership because I knew that somewhere down the road that might be something that I was interested in. So I wanted to have that in my back pocket. When I moved to Pioneer, I was there for a year. Our principal at the time, Mr. Jeske, was diagnosed with lung cancer. So he was kind of in and out a lot. And then my second year is when he really got sick, and they needed someone to kind of step up and take over part of his job. And I happened to have the credential from going to graduate school. So that person kind of became me. As an instructional coach, you're seen as a leader in the building anyway. So it was kind of a natural transition to do that. And then, unfortunately, he passed away, and I would say that I was probably the assistant principal in that building from probably December until the end of the year. And I became the acting admin, they called me, because I essentially was the principal without the actual title. And during that time, I realized how much of a passion I had for that. I always knew it was kind of an end goal for me, but I didn't realize how quickly that experience was going to move me towards this.
Okay, so I'm curious about the educational leadership um, masters that you have. So what what does that class kind of set you up for? Like, what is the point of it?
Yeah, there's a lot of different masters people can take in education. A lot of them are on curriculum and instruction and things like that. And that just didn't sound very interesting to me. BPS actually partnered with NDSU and they came here twice a month. Mrs. Hurt and I actually did it together. Um, and it was awesome. We got to be together as a group and talk instead of an online class. So that's really what piqued my interest first, more so than the educational leadership part. But I knew I always considered myself a leader. I'm not afraid to voice something or speak my opinion. And I always found myself in a leadership type position on every team that I'd been a part of. And so I knew that that was something that I could definitely continue. And the types of classes we took, they were basically to become a principal. You just had to take a couple more classes at the end to get your principal credential. So it was a lot about law, just how to lead. We learned a lot about ourselves and different personality types and how to handle different hard situations, conflict, crucial conversations, things like that, that were way more interesting to me than maybe curriculum and instruction.
Which is funny because I feel like, in the elementary school, in pretty much every school, um, you're trying to get kids to deal with conflict and to have those conversations. And it's kind of funny that, like, as an adult, a master's level class is essentially that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like as a society, we've kind of gone like off the rails with being able to have a conversation.
Yes,
and,
totally agree.
And being able to argue. Like, one of the things that I find interesting is how some people are afraid to disagree with their boss or to even like ask questions or have an argument about something. And it's like, at the end of the day, if you're the boss, what you say I have to do, like, it's fine. But it's like, why can't I voice my opinion and it not agree with you? And then so many people, I feel like boss wise, take it super personal if you don't agree with them right away. And it's like, just because you're in charge.
Into like a society, if I don't agree with you, then I don't like you. And we need to have conflict all the time and disagree. And that's not what conflict is. Conflict's inevitable. You're going to have it you can have even good conflict. You'll have it all the time. But that doesn't mean that you don't like the person just because you disagree.
And I feel like you see that like in psychology, as far as like relationships go, wife, husband, or even like friendships. If you have two friends that have never like had an argument or gotten a fight, and then they do, like, that's really where you see how that relationship's going to be. And, I see that a lot, even in elementary school. I see, these two friends, like, we're best friends. We've been each other's friend for however long. And then the second they get in an argument, usually about a boy, they're like mad at each other now and they won't even talk. And it's like, how did we're not functioning as a society the most beneficial, not being able to help them just have that argument, say what you need to say, and then move on from it. Because at the end of the day, you're in like third, fourth, fifth grade, and that boy, like, you're probably not going to marry the guy. Like, your friend will be there for a long time. Yeah. He's not. Just move on. But that's neither here nor there. So, what do you think? Going back to like more important topics, what do you think is the main difference between an assistant principal and a principal, like responsibility wise?
I think it depends on the building. I'd say the majority of assistant principals typically handle a lot of behavior with students more so than maybe the instruction part. But I just really think it depends on what the principal wants. Obviously, it's their school. They have the say at the end of the day. But I hope that there'd be a collaborative relationship with the assistant principal.
Right. And I agree. I think so I've, like I said, taught in several different schools in different states. And I think pretty much everywhere it's similar in the sense that the assistant principal deals more with behaviors in the students, whereas the principal, and this is my opinion, where the principal deals with like parents and budgeting and administrative information going back and forth.
Yep, I'd agree.
So, and I almost think, in every situation, and you can probably agree, assistant principals is essentially training for principal.
Yes.
It's kind of like you're waiting to be a captain of the ship. You're you're paying your dues, you're doing your stuff. But I think it's good that I think it's beneficial they deal with behaviors because, they kind of go from one to the other, right? You deal with kids and their behaviors. And then when you're a principal, you have a good understanding of how you want your school run,
right?
Like kids and behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So you can set that precedent with your assistant principal and say, this is how I want it done, and then go do it. Because I think any good boss, delegates those responsibilities and then sends them on their way and then checks in eventually,
right?
Whatever.
Right.
So we'll not today, obviously today is just kind of getting to know you and your thoughts on a few things and just your history. Down the road, we'll discuss topics like behaviors and what your thoughts maybe are on how to handle certain things, or throughout the school year. I'm sure we'll have stuff come up, and it'll be an argument in any sense. I mean, teachers are going to have their own opinions. Aides are going to have an opinion. Everyone's going to have an opinion about how they think things should run, which I think is good. I think everybody should have an opinion because at the end of the day, that's how you find a good solution to things.
Yeah.
But I think those arguments need to happen. Okay, so wrapping things up. I know I don't know how long we've been going for.
32.
32 minutes. That's not too bad. So in a perfect world, in a vacuum, what do you see your first year of looking like? And then where do you see the second year going?
Yeah. Pioneer was a very small school. Lincoln is obviously much, much bigger.
Huge.
So getting to know, building relationships with teachers, students, parents, I think they need to see me, know me, trust me before we can continue further with anything that we might need to do to be successful. So I see myself in my first year doing a lot of things like that. Getting to know the building, the style of teachers teaching, the students, that whole sort of thing. I think going into the second year will be different because I'll have all of that information. I feel like people will know me, students will know me, and it'll be a little bit different.
Is there any what is your, not concerns, almost fear for the first school year? What is the one thing that you're kind of on the fence about or unsure about?
Yeah, it's when you go, it's kind of like being a kid at a new school. You don't know anybody. People don't know you. You know yourself. So you're trying to show your best self and make sure that other people see that. It sounds dumb to say, but making friends, because I'm not here to make friends, but I'm here to make good connections, positive relationships with people. And I have had that at every building I've been at. So it's a little scary to come to a building and not have that foundation right away. So that would be the one thing. It's in the back of your mind always of wanting people to know you, get to know you, trust you. It's hard. You almost want to skip over that whole part and get to the part where you have a good, solid relationship built, because that beginning part's the hard part.
Yeah. So in a perfect world, what would a perfect school year look like?
Wow, perfect school year.
We can't say no, but no bad behaviors or whatever from kids, because kids are kids. That has never changed.
Right.
Ever.
Right. I know something I think is really important. Obviously, standards, learning, all of that is important in any school because that's why we're here. That's the law. That's why kids go to school. But to me, that stuff is important. But it's more important to me, the students that leave here, what they're like. I talk to my own personal kids all the time. If you get A's or 3s or 4s or whatever they're using, that's important to me. But when I go to a parent-teacher conference, I want to know that you're kind, respectful, and helping other people. And I care more about the person that you are than if you got a 4 on your math assessment. And so that's something that I bring into this job too. I care about students beyond their grades. I want to get to know them, their lives, what makes them do the things that they do, so we can be ultimately a successful student.
That's interesting. So, like many other topics, kind of in that rhetoric there, that we can like discuss down the road, which I think will be kind of interesting to play off of what you said there. But yeah, I think that's enough for now. And then hopefully next time we'll have Melissa on, or Miss Hurt, as she's called, Mrs. Hurt. Sorry, Dale. But we'll kind of like discuss with her about what's going on, and where she's at. All right, that is it. We'll see you next time.
All right.